she's growing up there on the wall. Can you believe it? That's not what this video is about. This video is not about Swiss cheese plants. It's not about any of these plants, or at least none of the plants that the camera's caught so far in the plant room here, because I haven't showed you a shot of the plants that we're working with in this video yet. I have alluded to it in previous videos. I'm super excited to work with these plants, not only because it's the first time that I've ever worked with these plants, but they're also taking up a lot of space on my plant room floor there. And I'm sick of having that grow light pointing down at that box. My dad dropped off a whole box of these plants that were actually used at my sister's engagement party as like little centerpieces and things like that. And now I've got a big box, and now I've got a big old box of cactuses and an inquisitive spirit that wants to get to know these things a little bit, that wants to make some arrangements, that wants to organize these things, that wants to, you know, even, dare I say, watch them grow like I do the rest of these plants. Mostly I've had these things sitting in their holding cell for long enough. I'm ready to get this box cleared out. I'm ready to get that grow light pointed back over here. So we're gonna mix and mash and do all sorts of things with these cactuses down here. Change the camera angle on you. And most of all, we're just gonna, what the heck was that, right? And most of all, we're just gonna have fun. We're gonna play around with those cactuses down there. We're gonna try not to prickle our delicate little fingers, and we're gonna do all that right out there. But first of all, I've gotta carry this box of cactuses right out there. You do realize I'm gonna have to fake this shot and pit down and pick up this box a bunch of times to get this next one. But that's okay. It's all for the video. There we go. I hope I was able to stitch that together properly. Have we introed? Is that a good enough intro? I think I did a pretty good job. I did the whole like walking through the living room with the box of the cactuses. I talked about what we're doing. I think it's pretty obvious that we're making some arrangements. I even might have mentioned that we're going with a terracotta theme. Now, why terracotta theme, you might be asking, and if you weren't, well, maybe you should be. And the idea behind this whole terracotta theme, well, it came to me in a few ways. Number one, these cactuses have already been living in terracotta for all of their lives, or most of their lives anyways. Over in the big cactus box over here. So I wanted to keep the whole terracotta theme, but what I wanted to do with these things instead is make little desert scenes in bigger terracotta bowls like this. Maybe a miniature version in something like this. I don't know. I've got a bunch of terracotta pots. I've also been wanting to repot this dragon tree over here. And it's got a pretty, kind of a nice traditional looking terracotta pot that we might end up using as well. But nonetheless, that's where the terracotta idea came from. I just think it goes really well with cactuses. I think it's gonna be really awesome to have little tiny desert scenes going on in all these bowls back here. The only thing I'm a little bit nervous about working with these things is that I couldn't find any gloves to use. And I've actually, to be honest, already pricked my thumb on one of these things when I was carrying the box in here. And it's not the actual prick of the cactus. You know what it is about cactuses that I've learned in my accidental prickings, is that it's not the actual prick that's gonna get you. The prick, you just kind of feel it for a second. It's this like lingering, dull pain that sits around in wherever that thing pricked you. And it always just kind of seems to like get right in between the cracks on your skin there, and it just kind of is like, it doesn't hurt, it's just like itchy and you want to rub it. And I don't know, these cactuses, they must be putting like some sort of a venom or something into your fingers when they prick you. I'm rambling on because now's the time where we got to put our thinking caps on. We got to start deciding how to arrange these things. We're going to be depotting stuff, we're going to be repotting stuff, we're going to be making little terracotta desert scenes. Whew. Yeah, it's going to be a fun video. Plant-based, but much different than what you're used to. But despite my lack of knowledge around cacti in this video, I'll fill the void with something else. I'll fill the void with long ramblings of, you know, just kind of wacky plant person topics. Things like our infinite nature. Things like how fortunate we are to have so many different varieties. I'm still actually blown away that, you know, we've got so many different varieties of plants. That's the thing I think I love most about plants. There's a ton of different varieties. There's all sorts of things to look at. There's little flipping spikes coming out of them. They've got a whole new way that they like to grow because they come from obviously more desert climates where they're not used to being, you know, pounded with water and everything like that. And we've even got a couple varieties that, you know, dare I say, look a little wienerish. In fact, you know what I've noticed about cactuses? I'm just gonna be completely honest here. I've noticed that cactuses are probably the most wiener-looking plants that I've experienced so far. I'm sure there's other even more wiener-looking plants, but it's always the female side that's getting represented with plants. Have you ever noticed that? And you know what? I think it's fair time that the masculine side gets a say once in a while, and that's what I'm hearing from the cacti so far, guys. That's what I'm hearing from the cacti. Anyways, it's time to get to work. I think I'm going to pull all these out of the box so I can just observe them, look at them. Like I said, we're going to be making arrangements, little desert scenes in these terracotta pots. So we've got to choose which of these plants are going to want to live together. See, that's where it gets you. Did you catch that? When I set it down and you kind of drag your thumb into there, it's almost like hair. So I think what we're going to do just to get started, just to keep it easy on ourselves, is depot this, maybe stick it into this pot, and then we're going to have a whole bunch of more room around it. So maybe we'll decide on some of these other little fellas to join it. But I am getting slightly ahead of myself, and you know why? Because I haven't mentioned what all these cactuses are actually going to be living in, and that's what that little assortment of things back there. We're going to be doing a whole new mix for these cactuses. I've been doing my research. Cactuses, they love really high draining soils, and to create that special mix, we're going to use just some of my standard potting soil that I use for all my plants. This is just a mixture of compost, peat moss, and then the white stuff that you see in there is the perlite. I'm also going to dress this cactus soil up with some other little goodies. I've got a bag of bark mulch. This is what's going to allow the water to just pass over the roots, exit quickly out the drain hole in the bottom of the pot, and not keep everything all soggy and gross and, you know, the way that cactuses don't like it. This, we'll see in a little while. This is called akedama, and we're going to use this as the top dressing because I just thought it would look really cool. So that'll be a fun treat. And then this right here, I ordered from one of my idols on YouTube, benjiplant, and this is from Keep It Simple Organics, and this is basically it's fertilizer. It's like an organic fertilizer. So we'll break into this bag. We're going to mix some of this. We're going to mix some of this. We're going to mix a bunch of this in this. So first of all, sip of water, of course. I feel a lot of rambling going on while we're doing our mixing. Second of all, we're going to spill some of our regular soil in here, just a couple scoops, maybe a handful or so. I'm going to say like maybe 30% is what I'm going to try with these wood chips here. So in my case, I'm just going to cover up the entire surface, give it a little mix and feel the consistency, kind of see it come together. Again, we just want nice, really fast draining soil. I'm going to give you a nice view of this stuff. Just kind of ground up stuff that plants love to eat. More specifically, it is derived from alfalfa meat, fishbone meal, crustacean meal, kelp meal, fish meal. The list goes on all these kind of meals and just natural things from the environment that plants love to eat. So this is going to be the fertilizer. This is going to be the food for the cactuses, or at least that's my plan, anyways. Maybe we'll do 2 scoops per little mix that we make. It does kind of make the soil smell more appetizing in kind of a weird, like salady, just fresh. I kind of feel like I'm eating a salad beside the ocean right now. That's the smells that are coming up into my nostrils. Regular potting soil, bunch of wood chips, some Keep It Simple organic nutrients, and a bunch of excited plants waiting to be repotted in their new deserty little terracotta pots. Okay, so now for the fun part. We get to roll our sleeves up. It's actually kind of the scary part as well, because unlike my usual plants that I like to work with that are gentle and delicate on my fingers, these are full of little spiky spikes all over the place, and I've got to somehow get these out of the soil without hurting my hands too much. You know what? I think I'm gonna have to pause for just a moment, because this just might call for some tiny little terrarium tools. Got another one? Yeah, this is the one that I actually wanted as well. Now, the other thing that kind of freaked me out about these plants is that I didn't realize it when I first got these things, but none of the bottom of the pots have any drain holes in them. And you know that one of my cardinal rules is to have a drain hole, especially for, you know, plants that don't love to be sitting in moist water. So I've been kind of scared ever since. I threw them all in the shower. I gave them a nice big old gulp of what I thought was going to be, you know, a long time coming rain. And what ended up happening is now I've had them sitting in kind of soaking conditions, the exact conditions that they don't like for some time. So I've been kind of collecting all the resources, getting all the stuff to make the potting mix and everything like that. But I've been worried about these guys ever since. And I think for this side, if I just kind of scoop my finger in there, I should. Whoops. I should be able to lift it right like that. Did I say route? Did I say lift it route like Scooby-Doo? Kind of feel like I did. So the nice thing about cactuses is that they don't have prickles on their roots. Can you imagine if cactuses had prickles on their roots too? They'd be darn near impossible to handle. But look at what not having a drain hole. Let me actually move you up close for this shot, because I want to emphasize the importance of a drain hole. But not having a drain hole lets all that moisture just sit in there. And even a dummy like me knows that a cactus doesn't want to live in a soggy sponge like that. And that was my mistake for not realizing that they didn't have drain holes. But the good news is that we're here together now. We're fixing all that. We're putting them in a brand new home. I just got water all over my tray, so now I'm going to be messing up the bottom of my pots and it's just going to be one big dirty mess after another, isn't it? You can buy specific hole covers, but I just get this at the hardware store. It's like the stuff that you would put in like your window screens. And I just throw this over the bung hole in the bottom of the pot here, and that just helps a little bit of the extra soil from not leaking out of there and things like that. You know what else I've noticed? When I'm potting, I like to stand for some reason. I think it's because it kind of gives me that like aerial view, and I can dig in to the soil. I can pop it down into the pot. There you go. Get you a real nice popping it in the pot shot with an aerial view, just like I have. In fact, you know what this actually is that we're doing here? This is matchmaking for plants, for cactus plants. So let me give you a shot of what we're working with. We've got a bunch of extra space in the front there. We've still got these two sort of, you know, intertwined in whatever kind of weird cactus relationship they had going on. I think what we're going to do is we're going to get these three little foresty looking guys in here. Maybe do a little grouping of 2 and 3. Don't worry, I'll show you a close up when I actually do it. So another testament to using terracotta for our little cactusy project here is that, remember when I told you I had given all these things an extra big soak, and none of the pots have drain holes on the bottom of them? Well, I guess it must be something in the terracotta that just sort of slurps away all that water, because the plants that were living in this pot were still soaking wet, and the plants that are coming out of these little terracotta pots are absolutely bone dry. Yeah, I think right over here is where we're going to put that one. Quick little push into their new homes. Get everything settled. Ooh, this one's got some, ow, jeez, got me. I was just admiring your dangly roots there. We're gonna find a little spot right in, I think right in here, almost towards the center, but just slightly offset. We're gonna call this arrangement complete. Not the full arrangement, we've still got a couple little finishing touches that we're gonna put, but I'm gonna wait to do the finishing touches until we've got all of our arrangements made. Gently, of course, and then we'll let's make another arrangement. What should we do next? I think we're gonna go for this bowl right here, kind of the miniature version of the one that we got over here. And I did mention that this was my favorite cactus of the bunch. So I think we're gonna highlight, we're gonna just have a tiny little arrangement that highlights that guy. But here's gonna be the conundrum. If I put 2 of these in here, then we got an even number, but we do have an odd number between the 3. So how do we feel about that? Yeah, I think that'll do it. And what I really like about the 3 of these cactuses is I kind of feel like all the tones work really good together. This one has a little bit of prickles, but not too many prickles. This one's like prickleless, so they kind of feel like they're in the same vein. Having it off to the side like this is kind of, in my opinion, like a natural way of making this plant front and center. You know, the plant that's front and center, it doesn't have to run out there in the middle waving its arms around going, oh, look how great I am, you know? It likes to kind of hang off from the side, but you know, just its magnificence does the trick. And again, what a crazy testament to these terracotta pots. Look, this like kind of ceramic or whatever that is, totally wet soil in there still. Terracotta pots, same water and everything. These are the ones that are the closest to my true style, to that more like, you know, river style is what I like to call it. Or at least every time I'm at the aquarium, I tend to enjoy the river section. So that's what I've been calling my style, more of like a river style. A hike along a river with a waterfall has always been my favorite type of hike. And just that like kind of trees falling, everything's wet, everything's kind of dripping, everything's moist, everything smells delicious like you're inside of like a reptile cage or a terrarium of some sort. That's not what this video is about. I'm not gonna gush about my my plant style, because now we're playing with a whole new type of plant. And despite my nostalgia, I really am truly having a good time kind of learning a little bit from these plants just by touching them. These ones, for example, these little 3 guys, they like to fall over a lot, but I just think this is so simply elegant that I might just have to keep this one for myself. That's the only thing I'm trying. I did mention when I got started with this video that I'm making these arrangements for a store called Tangles, for a knitting store where I've got a plant display. And to be honest, my biggest struggle in making this video is going to be not falling too much in love with these plants behind me, because for a lot of them I'm not going to get to see them, you know, but every week or maybe 2 weeks, who knows, maybe even these cactuses. I don't know what the watering regimen is going to be for these cactuses, probably even once a month or so. I already kind of had the idea for this next one earlier, and we're going to take these 2 plants. We're going to use, I don't know how many of these spiky stick guys. I'm really like, I'm not a fan of these plants. I'm not even sure I'm even going to do anything with these cactuses except maybe put them, well, maybe I shouldn't be talking so much crap with them, because just arranging them on the table like this and seeing them in a little grouping is kind of a cool gig. And then maybe with this orange guy in the middle. All right, that's getting on to, that's going to be the next arrangement. Am I disappointed in my family for not having watched my video and know to put drain holes in the bottom of these pots? Well, yes and no. Yes, because, you know, of course you have to have a drain hole in the bottom of your pots, especially when you're working with cactus. But no, because, you know, they were using them for centerpieces, even though a diamond drill bit is like 20 bucks at a local hardware store, and all you really need is a drill and a little bit of water to operate it. And they could have gone through and plugged little holes in the bottom of all of these. I forgive them, and I understand. And if I was doing just a quick little arrangement for a party, well, I probably wouldn't have wasted time. Actually, you know what? I would have wasted the time. I would have wasted the time putting the holes in the bottom. Who am I kidding? Now that I'm looking around, actually, we haven't decided on a pot that we're going to use for these guys yet. So for this one, we may have to do our first unpotting. But what should we go for? Should we go for that one that the dragon tree's in? It's just kind of your standard. I really want to use this pot in the display just because look at all that cool I don't know, do you call that patina? All that white stuff on there. I think this is my favorite of my terracotta pots, so I definitely want to use this in the display. In fact, I may even swap my favorite little arrangement for this now that I've seen it. In fact, for this one, we're even going to do it outside because you know what? I don't want the mess, Jess. It causes too much stress. But I forgot to, dang it. I forgot to get my screens for my bung holes. I'll be right back. Okay. So we're going to do a quick repotting of our Ming Aurelia right here, just because I want to clear out the pot. And then we'll do and then also we're going to do the dragon tree because we're actually going to use this pot for our next arrangement. It looks like such a delicate plant until you actually get your fingers down in its roots and you can feel how tight it's holding on. All right, there we go. In fact, if you'd like, you can come with me and help me pick it out, although I'm not going to open the garage or anything, so it's probably going to be ultra dark. Let's see. What would go well with our Ming Aurelia? You know what I'm thinking? You know what caught my eye? You probably can't see it because it's in the shadows. But this one right here. Anyways, back to business. I'm going to speed through the rest of this because again, this video is about cactus. It's not about flipping repotting Ming Aurelias and dragon's trees. Despite the fact that we'd love to go off on a random tangent and clean this whole thing up and all of that, we'll save that for a future video. Because if there's one thing I do have trouble with, it's keeping on topic. Something I've been working with in my life, you know. I'm the kind of guy I like to. I'm sort of like a squirrel where I get distracted really easily. But then once I get distracted, instead of being constantly distracted, I'll get like really into whatever distracted me for a while. But then but then after I've become, you know, obsessed for some time, I'll get distracted by something else. And I used to kind of dislike that about myself. But as I've gotten older, I've really grown to appreciate that about myself because you know what? Getting distracted by things and wanting to fall down the rabbit holes and learn new stuff all the time and constantly fill your life with just new knowledge is, you know, why do we look at that as such a negative thing? I think we should change what we do and what we love over and over and over again in our lives. This dragon tree has been with me. This is one of the first plants that I ever got, the first house plants that I ever got anyways. And I just have always never really thought this pot was right for it. I always thought it kind of needed something better. Something a little bit more suitable, something that would pull the beautiful tones of greens out of its leaves, and that's what I'm aiming to do with this pot anyways. I probably should even clean these roots up a little bit, but you know what? They're a little bit big for this pot. To be honest with you, I stopped the camera a moment ago. I went into the garage, I tried to find a different pot, I tried to find a bigger pot. I don't really have a pot, a perfect size for this plant. But then it hit me, you know what? We'll go in here, we'll clip these roots, we'll trim things up, and our dragon tree will fit perfectly into the container that had initially come to us. Should I change the angle and just inch closer and closer back towards the door so we can finally get this intermission over with and we can get back to our cactus arranging? It wasn't all in vain because now we've got an even better pot for our dragon tree. Because now we've got an even better pot for our dragon tree, for our Ming Aurelia over here. I think I'm going to leave them outside because I still got to clean up this whole mess. But the best part, and the even better part, is that now we finally get to go back inside. Intermission over. Now, where were we? I almost forget. I almost don't know. But now that we've taken a break, now that we've kind of freshened our brain up again, we can get back to cacti arranging. And you know what I thought about it as I was out there repotting those other plants and clearing up this terracotta pot for myself? I thought, by golly, do you know what this all means? Am I talking really high? And you know what I was thinking about as I was out there repotting up those other plants? Is that now, by golly, I think that we've just become an official member of the Cacti Club. I mostly just wanted to say Cacti Club. The last spike that I got really flippin' hurts. I think I did a whole speech about how your spikes look dangerous, but they're not actually that bad. You know what? They're bad, they're worse. It's annoying is what it is, you know? The spikes, I will say, are the annoying part of cactuses. Probably also the coolest part, but nonetheless, I find them pretty dang annoying. I will say though that despite getting stabbed by these things over and over again, I'm still glad I chose not to wear gloves, because the gloves would have just been too cumbersome. Well, I got to take that opportunity to let whatever that plant's saying kind of dangle through my bare fingers, because that's part of how they talk. All right, should we put this other one in? I think we're going to save the little mini-me version of that cactus for the end, because we're going to use this one to sort of balance out this circular shape, and I'm just not sure where yet. For now, we'll take these kind of look like little snake plants in a cactus variety. So we've got a little forest full of these. I will admit they do have this kind of wicked look to them. Basically, yeah, like a snake plant, like a sansevieria, or whatever you call it, except with little ouchy spikies all over it. So where should we put this third one? Oh, fuck. Oh, God. Not again. Sorry for the language. Really got me that time. So I've been debating on where do I put this third one. And remember, we've still got this other little ball that's going to sort of balance out the circular shape of this one. We don't want to put, I kind of debated making a little forest right over here and kind of keeping those all in the same group, but I do want to take, you know, the texture and the stuff that these are thrown in here and bring a little bit of it to this side to balance it out. And rather than talk about it, maybe I'll show it to you. Show you what I was thinking anyways. The chatter does help me kind of go through the process. Believe it or not, when I'm not filming a video like this, I actually still do say a lot of this stuff, but maybe in my head a little bit. All right, let's get these other guys shifted over here, just a pinch. And should we go absolutely crazy with this one and throw a little splash of color in there? I think that this red that we were going to use on our last arrangement, I think a little splash of color right here in the back is going to be perfect. All this green, all these different textures, you know, spheres and little finger-looking cactuses. And then right in the corner, a wonderful splash of red. Sometimes what you don't see, because I usually edit it out of the video because it's boring, but I have to make tiny little tweaks, like moving these snake plants over and over again, just to kind of get them into place, because as you're building this thing, of course the vision's going to come together as the plants start making their way into there. And you know, part of the fun of all of this stuff is being able to go in there and do some little tweaks, move some stuff around. Now remember when I said that this was my favorite little arrangement and I was going to keep it for myself? I am still going to do that, but I'm also going to swap the pot. We're going to do a quick pot swap. Scoop them all up and put them over. Our final arrangement, like I said, the inspiration behind this was all of these little balls. Don't they sort of look to you like little tiny cactusy yarn balls? Well, I hope so, because that was the crazy inspiration behind this next arrangement. And what we're going to do, I just had a cool idea, but it's going to require us drilling a hole in the bottom of this thing. We're going to do that outside, but believe me, it's going to be worth the second intermission. This is going to be the coolest arrangement. Excuse the mess. We were doing some repotting. This is going to be quick because terracotta is actually pretty easy to drill. In fact, the hardest part is getting it started. You sort of got to find a groove and then push. Eventually you can just kind of push, give it a little bit of pressure, and then just let the drill do the work. Takes a little bit longer than you think. And there we go. And the real reason that we drilled that hole was so that we could create an interesting level in this last and final arrangement. So let me get this guy pulled out of here. We're gonna put this little pot, it's gonna hold the showstopper. I'm gonna place this one up a little bit higher here so it can kind of do its thing and stand out and be its own little sparkle of sunshine in the arrangement. And then what we're gonna do, I'm gonna get you an even closer shot for this one, is we're gonna fill in this remaining edge around our little level here. We're gonna fill that up with probably 3 of these. And then of course we'll put 1 on each side as well. Almost like 3 little spherical cactus worshippers looking up at their delightfully inspiring orange cactus god that rises above them. I could say that's what the cactuses are telling me, but no, I think that one just came right out of the old noggin. And there we go, our 3rd and final arrangement. But like I've been saying this entire video, there's still one more step, but there's still something just unfinished looking about these desert simulating pots. And that is where our akidama soil will come into play. Well, for the first time ever, it's a bag within a bag. So that's called akidama soil. We're going to create a layer of this akidama on top of all of our pots. So this is the part where you can sort of zen out. You can take your little terrarium tool. You can just sort of, wiggle everything into place, similar to doing like a bonsai or something like that. But really what we're doing here is we're putting the final touches. We're bringing everything together, and that's what I like. That's what I like about a top dressing, because it's those little tiny details, those little consistent things that sort of bring the entire piece together and present these plants in the best light they possibly could. I will admit, I didn't expect to get the terrarium kind of vibes that I'd be getting out of this little cactus project that we've done. I think it's actually turned out pretty cool, especially now that we're getting this top dressing on there. Everything's looking finished, everything's looking consistent. I think we made good decisions as far as which cactuses go together, or at least we helped it all make sense in our own minds. And that's the key to everything, right? To give it all some sort of meaning, and then tell yourself that, of course, nothing really has any meaning, does it? Why did I say that? I don't know. Because when you strip the meaning away from everything that you do, well, of course, you're human. You're still going to assign meaning to everything that you do, and that's the beauty of it. You just will no longer care as much about what that meaning is. You'll sort of play with it, and you'll be able to assign things meaning, but also kind of, change it quickly, and just have more fun with life in general. Another arrangement, dressed and ready to go. One left, and just because with this one we're going to dare to be different, we're going to use a little bit of gravel to kind of switch up the look. Bring just a tiny pop to this already magnificently orange, godlike cactus. Plus we have a reason to use our other little shovel here. You didn't realize this, but you've been sitting on top of the stone bucket this whole video. I even got a new little shipment of all of these little nano pieces of, I don't even know what you call this, driftwood or something like that. But we're not using that stuff on this project. What we're looking for is we're going to dig in here, and I want to find something like a rock, something that you can imagine seeing in a desert. really all we're doing with these rocks is we're just trying to add something just slightly interesting. We're just trying to add something interesting, something to just kind of let your mind take a break from all of the plants and everything going on and all of this stuff once in a while. So with things like these stones, we can put them into places like these dead zones right in the front there. We can squish them down a little bit. And although it's something in there that's actually filling in that dead space, it still allows that dead space to sort of, continue to become dead space. But what it also does is it changes up the textures on you. And in a weird sort of way, it kind of allows your eye just a little break as it scans over that portion. Let's find one more tiny little rock to put in there. I almost always say never work in twos and even numbers, but have no fear, because we're going to take one of these little guys and we're going to sneak it right into the back here. Not just to have an odd number, because that's the rule, but for the same reason I just told you about that whole thing in there. This is the first time we're going to be seeing the actual arrangement in its entirety, all nice and completed. Only one thing left to do, and it's the same step that I say in all my videos. I'm going to waggle my finger around to make it most important. Because that final step is the detail work. We're going to take our tweezers, we're going to get in here, we're going to look for all the imperfections, like these little wood chips that are sitting up on the surface. And we're just going to take some time getting rid of all of that kind of crap. Got all this akadame soil in there. You don't want to just leave that stuff. Imagine how unprofessional that would look. The point is that this is the part in the process where you just want to take your time. You're going to want to be finished because, we've been working on these things for hours. We're ready to be done. We're ready to kind of put it aside, move on to something else. I know, I understand when you say that, but you still just got to take your time, however long it takes, and do this detail work. And I'll tell you what, if you can learn to not think about how long it's taking and how much you don't want to sit there for hours doing detail work, well, I can assure you that number one, it's not going to take hours, so don't worry, don't get too wrapped up in all of that. But if you just kind of allow yourself to lose your mind a little bit, to not care, to just kind of do it, just to do something. Maybe even think about how cool it is that you're alive, just doing something. So that's just one thing that you could think about as you're in here pulling little twigs and stuff off your plants. Is how grateful you are that you just get to work with them. But if you want something a little bit less cheesy to think about, well, I don't know, the only things I can think about is cheesy things. But while you're in there playing with your plants, pulling all the little dirt and stuff off their, I guess you don't call them leaves, off their little prickles, don't forget that this is also the time to get you a good rag and to take care of your pots. Give them a good wipe down, clean all the old dirt that might be lingering on these things. Well, the detail work is always technically the final step, but in our specific case, because we just planted these new arrangements, we're going to give our new arrangement the thing that all plants love. Yes, even desert-dwelling plants like this always love, despite it being only once in a while, a good soak. And I like to do that in the old shower. Is there any other cool stuff I can show you in the plant room? There is one really cool thing. I've been worried about this Alocasia zebrina for some time. When I first got it shipped here, it had a little bit of damage on the leaves, and I've sort of, honestly, the leaves have taken a bit of a turn for the worse, although they've stopped doing anything bad. But the good news is, right there in the middle, we've got a brand new leaf unfurling there for us. And speaking of new leaves, you almost can't even tell anymore, but our fern tree's brand new frond right here is almost fully sprouted out. And even here in the back, its little baby brother is starting to make its way out. The best part about today was that we got to work with something new. We got to work with something different. We got to clear that box that's been sitting in that space on my floor for weeks now. Despite it all, despite all the prickles, despite the lingering pain in those creases between my knuckles for whatever reason, despite all of that, I think it was a darn good time hanging out with those cactuses. Now I know I've been saying there's only one thing left to do for some time, but now there truly is only one thing left to do in this video. And that's going to be taking these spiky guys and putting them in their new home in Tangles, right behind me. I can't point at it because I got a cactus display. Don't worry, I'll show you the finished product when I'm done. This is the shot of me walking around the corner to the store. Go quick and hope a big gust of wind doesn't move the camera down. Am I rolling? Yep. Halfway done. The dog's already checking it out. Just one more to go. Now, why do I keep doing the POV shots with this little guy, you ask? Well, the answer is quite simple. It's laziness. This one's the smallest. The other ones hurt my fingers and I can barely hold them with just one hand. With this little guy, I can move around, I can move you around, I can wave the camera, I can dangle this, I can talk about how I'm gonna miss these pokey little fellas as they live in their new home in Tangles. I can even show you the live finish of the new display. The only question is, does it look good? I think it does. I was debating on the levels of the things back here, thinking if this was a little bit too high, but I think it looks pretty good. I like the different levels of it. Let's step back, let's get a nice good view. I'll probably come back in here and do little tweaks and this and that, and you know. But if you live in North Carolina, if you live in Waxhaw, where I live specifically, you yourself could come down to Tangles on Main and see my my brand new cactus display for yourself. And maybe while you're at it, fall in love with some knitting supplies. Who knows? This one, our favorite one, is gonna live right here in the plant room, right under our 24/7 watch. It'll appear in many videos. We'll get to watch this little thing grow together. It's gonna inspire us down many more rabbit holes, I'm sure. And I think I'm gonna let it inspire us right from that spot behind the alocasia. Cactuses do love a nice, full, sunny spot. Am I right? I hope I'm right. These ferns and these philodendrons and all of these beautiful kind of lush from the tropical rainforest type of plants that we love so much. All of those plants, they're so warm, they're so inviting. You almost feel like you can wrap yourself in their leaves and you just feel safe and comfortable. But a cactus ain't that way. A cactus will bite you just if you get close enough. You don't even have to try to do anything to the cactus, and it's gonna bite you right in between those little lines on your skin, in between your knuckles, and it's gonna make you want to itch that and rub it. It's not gonna hurt. It's just gonna be bloody annoying. But that's what we love about cactuses too, right? There's no better way to end a video than that.